You gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. He looked good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday in the Quad Cities. Friday, July 11th. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Hopefully everyone survived the bumpy weather last night in the Quad Cities. A lot of rain, a lot of lightning, a lot of storms. We survived out here in Milan. Hopefully everyone around the Quad Cities is doing great here this morning as well. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate that. Thank you for doing that. If you've subscribed, thank you as well. If you have not subscribed, please do so ASAP. And tell a friend, 2 or 10, about what we're doing right here in the Quad Cities. Off the Air with Matt Randazzo every weekday right here in the Quad Cities. We've been doing it for over 6 months now. Cannot be more grateful for the support we've gotten as we continue to build this thing, as we get ready for football season, the fall, and into the winter as well. A lot of exciting times right here on OTA. We're also live on X. X has been very, very good to us. So if you're watching us on X, we appreciate that as well. And then, of course, you can check out today's podcast and all of the podcasts on any podcasting platform that exists. Sounds really cool. I think that's true, but I know Spotify, Apple, Podbean, iHeart, you name it, we should be up and rocking when it comes to the podcasting platforms as well. As we mentioned, we've been doing this for over 6 months. I figured today would be a great day to kind of look back a little bit as we get ready to hit the middle of the summer and get ready for football season right around the corner. Believe it or not, 7 weeks from tomorrow is the very first big Saturday of college football. Iowa will open, Illinois will open. Of course, 6 weeks from tomorrow, Iowa State will open over in Ireland. But for the most part, the majority 7 weeks away, putting us about 50 days until the start of the college football season. So I figured today would be a great day to take a look back at 2 really fun interviews that we've done recently right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Lucky enough and grateful to have both Kirk Ferentz and Bret Bielema joining us on the show in May. It was a lot of fun. Really grateful that they took the time to talk to me on this show about football season coming up, their teams, their programs, and much, much more. So today we'll start on May 2nd. We chatted with Kirk Ferentz as he gets ready for year number 27 in Iowa City as the head coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes. So joining us now on Off the Air, a very familiar face, head football coach at the University of Iowa, Kirk Ferentz. Kirk, thank you for taking the time, first and foremost. I appreciate you doing this. 25 years in, 26th year coming up. If somebody told you in 1999 that in 2025 you'd still be rocking and rolling, what would you have said?
Probably a lot of people would have taken the under on that one. That's for sure. So I've really never thought in those terms, and I'm still trying to figure out how it all happened. But pretty much my whole career, going back to when I started teaching school and coaching football and women's basketball, actually, at Worcester Academy. It's all about just trying to do what you're doing as well as you can. And there are certain times of the year you give a little thought maybe to what you might be doing next year or how things might move forward. But never really got too occupied with that stuff or preoccupied with it. And, really have tried to focus more so on what I've been doing. And, here we are. So never envisioned living in Iowa. And that goes back to 1981. We were here for 9 years and now we're back 26. So you just never know, never know where life's going to take you. And the good thing is a lot more good days than bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, I mentioned, I appreciate you doing this. It's a slower time for you, I guess. I don't know if there's such a thing as a slower time, but you just wrapped up spring practice. When you look back at spring practice, I don't want to just talk to you about the X's and O's of what you saw. How do you approach spring practice now compared to 1999 or 2005, or how has it developed, and what do you look for now? Has it changed a lot? Has it changed a little? Has it not changed at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think really, you look back, our the major core things we believe in, the major core ways we do things, haven't really changed much at all since 1999. And what does change, your teams are different each and every year, where you're at in terms of experience, injuries, all those types of things. There's always a different challenge or different challenges. And then your approach to practice may change or vary a little bit based on those challenges. So you kind of try to assess where you're at, what the team looks like, and what we really need to do. But I think the basics have remained the basics. We take a good concentrated period from the time our guys get back till spring break to really focus on training, physical improvement. And there's some mental work that goes on at that time too, just, team building, things like that. But a big part of it is just the physical strength conditioning aspect or component. And then we transition after break into spring football, and that goes for about 5 weeks. We go at a very deliberate pace. It's 3 practices a week. The other 3 days, the guys are training or meeting and watching what they've done on the field or what they're going to install. And the nice thing about it, there's no race there. You're not preparing to beat anybody or compete against anybody. So it's a really deliberate phase. Yeah, and the pace of that will change based on your team. But one generality is you always have guys that are experienced. You always have a lot of guys that aren't experienced. The focus is probably a little bit more so on the guys that haven't played at all. But, that number varies year to year. So you're making those adjustments. And then, now we transition and we finish up here. We have a 2-week strength conditioning phase with our players. I've got some stuff I'm doing. I'm starting to meet with our team, and that'll carry into June, just having individual meetings. And, staff's out recruiting. And when summer, they get back here early June and get into another strength conditioning phase. And that's pretty much what June and July are all about. So then you're into your season. But yeah, things haven't changed a lot. And the big thing in the spring is just trying to teach guys how to play football better. And then, also have them, which obviously entails them learning their techniques, skills, fundamentals, learning what to do. And then also you're trying to build your team, and that's year round.
Coach, I can't have an interview with you without asking you about quarterback 1, QB1, all that kind of stuff. I know Mark wasn't up to speed 100%, but I thought he was ahead of schedule. I think that's what you guys had mentioned. Your thoughts on what he can do with this program, and then just the quarterback room in general, because you look back less than a year from now and it's completely been transformed with some new faces, some new talent. How do you feel about the room, and then especially quarterback 1?
Yeah, I'll finish with that. It's been an interesting road. I'm sitting here in my office, and as you're talking about that, I always just flash back to the Nebraska game in 22, I guess it would have been, or 23, 22. So it was a 20, whatever. The game we lost out here. But I'm thinking about Spencer Petras getting hurt. He got tackled routinely, and his whole shoulder blew up. And it's been a tough road ever since then. Just a really tough challenge at that position. We really felt good about Cade McNamara, seen him play, and played against him, competed against him, had a great feel. Unfortunately, we never got to coach him, and the fans never got to see him where he was full speed health-wise. And, it's hard to play and hard to compete at that position if you're not. And that's kind of been the story, the story of the last couple of years here. It's been a really interesting road, if you will, and a challenging road, that's for sure. So long story short, we feel great about Mark. Really enjoyed getting to know him through the recruiting process. I think his resume speaks for itself at South Dakota State. They're an outstanding program. And can compete with just about anybody in the country, I think. And so what he accomplished while playing in that program, we thought was very impressive. He's more impressive as an individual, just a really mature, smart guy, engineering major, and very high GPA in engineering. And he's done a great job since he's been here. Obviously, he hasn't been able to throw, but he's done a really good job getting to know his teammates, earning their respect, which is tough to do when you're not fully immersed in what they're doing. But he's been able to do that. and really anxious to see him. He should be throwing the ball here this summer, so it'll be fun to see him get back into it. When we start camp, he'll be 100%. So glad to have him join. And then we've had a lot of changes. Added Hank Brown out of Auburn. Young guy's got 3 years left, and we just signed a guy from Wake Forest, Jeremy Hecklinski, who's another guy that we feel really good about. And then certainly in our frontier, Jackson Stratton stepped in at the end of the season, did a nice job last year, and Jimmy Sullivan's the true freshman who joined us. So I think we've got a real good room, a competitive room, and first and foremost, our goal is to play well next year. I mean, that's all that counts at this point. But hopefully, while we're in the process of doing that, we'll be able to develop a room maybe where our next starter will come out of that room. That would be a perfect situation if we could have it go that way.
Kirk Ferentz joining us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Coach, I've had Chad Leistico and Tom Kakert on the show this week. Probably got to pick better friends, but both of them really raved about the wide receivers at the spring game and maybe in camp. Can you talk to that position as well? Because it seems like you've got some comfortable depth and some really good players that can compete over the summer and into the fall and make an impact on that position.
Yeah, I just talked about the quarterback room. I probably could have had a similar discussion about the offensive line. Certainly could have with the receiver room. We just haven't been able to gain traction. Been playing with some guys probably a little younger than they needed to be. Excuse me, before they got out there. And I think the good news is right now, if you look at it, we've got some older guys in the room, a couple newcomers. Jacob Gill joined us a year ago. It's done a good job. Sam Phillips, I think, is going to be a really good player for us. And then you've got a guy like Caden Weegan who has been here and obviously took a huge step last year on special teams. And I think he's getting ready to do the same thing on offense right now. He really looks comfortable with what he's doing. He's a lot more proficient in his play. So, suddenly you've got a group there of some older guys that are, give you some reason for hope and reason to be encouraged and excited about that, certainly. And then we've got a lot of other guys that, again, are younger guys that I think are starting to take those steps that you hope to see. And I think it's going to be a really competitive room. I think right now we feel like we got 6-7 guys maybe that can compete for playing time and hopefully carve out their own niches, if you will.
Coach, I wanted to talk about a bigger picture with you when it comes to college football, and it's a loaded question, so it's not it's hard to. You got to almost specify a little bit, but it's changed so much over the years, and especially over the last couple years. NIL, transfer portal, all those kind of things. We've talked ourselves about evolving in everything you do. How have you found yourself evolve over the last couple years? And
organization, they've I think probably tried to regulate and try to govern a body with one approach, and we've got a lot of different levels of competition going on right now in college athletics, and I think we all realize the college world and football has really boomed. You probably noticed that when we started adding teams from the West Coast or even going back to the East Coast. So it's a changing world, and we really haven't kept up with it very well. You end up with lawsuits, and again, we got there's a lot of lack of clarity right now. So all that being said, I mean, really you have two choices. You can leave, or you can, try to force yourself to find a way to make it work, and try to get creative a little bit and try to adapt without losing your identity. I think that's probably the key point for us. Everybody's got a different approach. I'm not judging anybody else, but we wanted to try to stay true to our core values again without sinking to the bottom at the same time. So we've tried to adapt and adjust, and I think we've done a decent job of that. But leading to your last question, which I think is probably the most critical point in all this stuff, we're all still alive. We're all doing fine. Everybody in college football, and I can't speak for college basketball. It's crazier than us. But I think at some point, if we don't get this thing under control, it's a pretty basic statement. But if we don't get it under control, I don't think it is sustainable the way it is right now. Having spent 6 years in the NFL, a couple things the NFL has that we don't have. And in the NFL, contract means something. So if you sign a contract, you're gonna honor that contract, or you're gonna sit at home. and that's coaches and players. So you sign contracts that mean something, and then the other part about it is the salary is capped. It's not for coaches. You could argue maybe they need to do that. It's a separate topic, but for players it is capped, and so what they have is a sense of there's a semi-equal playing field, if you will. Teams that draft the best, coach the best, are the teams that typically win. Teams with the best organizations have the right approach and just do things. They're the ones that seem to win. Team like Baltimore, franchise like Baltimore. So you just look at that. Kansas City the same way, but we don't have that right now. Our players can basically jump and go play anywhere else. In 24 hours, they could be somewhere else. So that's an issue right now. And the other issue, the bigger issue, I think, is just not having a cap, some form of control and cap on the revenue. And I know we don't want to call players employees yet, but they are going to get paid this year, as I understand it. So whatever you want to term them as, at some point there's got to be some, it's got to be a two-way street a little bit. And without the salary cap, you end up with a situation like Major League Baseball where, the teams, the coastal teams like New York and the Dodgers, they've got the biggest purse. So chances are they're going to load their roster a little bit better than maybe my hometown Pittsburgh Pirates. So that's what I fear that we're going to create in college football. And I think I don't think anybody can argue that's a good thing. I think if you had your choice, you'd rather compete in an NFL model as opposed to a Major League Baseball model.
Kirk Ferentz joining us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. A couple quick more for you.
Unless you're coaching the Dodgers or Yankees.
Then you're good.
And that's okay.
A few more before I let you go. I know you're busy. I'm biased. I'm in the Quad Cities, and you look at a list of Brett Greenwood, Jake Gervais. I think Julian Vandervelde was like a gray shirt before he was eventually full scholarship. I got to check with Julian because I keep saying that. I'm not sure if I'm right. Even a Rusty Van Wetzinga who was there and now at Central Michigan are all walk-ons that came to this program and developed and did good things. And you mentioned you don't even know what the number is of your roster right now, and it's supposedly going to be 105. But I guess the point of my question is you guys have used the walk-on system and you've hit some home runs. How does the new rules, the new regulations kind of affect a program like yours that is proud of the development they've had in walk-ons and getting talent on campus and developing those guys?
It's really one of my biggest fears, Matt, and it's kind of two levels. To your point, you just mentioned some really, outstanding players, and a couple of those guys are on this list. I was walking in our facility one time. We have a wall where we do honor, recognize some of the accomplishments of our walk-ons. And since I've been here, we've had 8 become captains, and that's about as high honor as you can get because you're voted on by your peers to become a captain. And I looked at that plaque, and I'm wondering, which guys are we apt to miss here in the next 10 years that would have been here and developed into captains. The great thing about football, you just never know how a guy's going to develop. I think, if the year before the draft, somebody had said Patrick Mahomes is going to be Patrick Mahomes, I don't think anybody would have taken, believe that. But somebody in Kansas City figured it out, and they drafted him. I think it was the 10th pick, but probably 9 general managers wishing they had done that. And that's a cool thing about football. A lot of those good stories. So the guys that maybe would have had great careers, that's a big thing. And then the other part, and I've got our younger boy as an example of this. Our son Steve never started a game here, and when we brought him in and recruited him, I told him, I said, just give you my fair assessment. I'm not sure you're ever going to start a game here, but we'd love to have you on the team but I want it to be a good experience for you. And obviously, if you're on the team, you're on the team. And so we've had a lot of guys that walk-ons and scholarship players that never started that were great team members. And it takes that to build a team. It takes that to have a successful season. So, we're limiting opportunities. And, I'm not against the cap at all, but 105 is just if you talk to football people in college football, we had this conversation last May out in our league meetings. Nobody agreed that 105 is a good number. They really didn't. And the administration understood that somehow between May and today, that number got changed. It got adjusted down. But we were all thinking, in the 115, 120 category, probably a fair number for a healthy college football program. So, it's unfortunate. There is some talk maybe they're going to grandfather it and all that stuff. But, the sad part there is we already notified our guys that we couldn't promise a 105 spot to. We let them know that back in November. So they can grandfather players back in. That's really not going to help the guys we've had discussions with. And quite frankly, it rewards people that haven't communicated with their players. And, that's a whole different story. I don't want to go down that road. But, college athletics, it's an interesting study.
No, it's crazy. Before I let you go, we're in the Quad Cities, obviously. We got some Quad City guys I got to ask you about real fast. Brett Greenwood is somebody that I've come up and done stories with you. I know he's inspired the heck out of you. I've talked to people about him being a Hall of Famer on the field and then a Hall of Famer off the field, about what he's done and how he's inspired people. I know you still keep tabs on Brett. When you see that story, talk about Brett as a warrior, and you saw it on the field, and now you see it to this day in what he's doing.
Yeah, I've got to go back to when my first exposure to Brett. Reese Morgan was the recruiting coach at that time, and Reese was with us for a long time, 20 plus years. One of the best coaches I've ever worked with, and maybe the best human being I've ever worked with in my entire career. But Reese had just a great eye for the right people. And whether it was Brett Greenwood, Mike Elgin, it seemed like every year there was somebody, Josie Jewell, somebody that he would subtly bring up. And I learned over time, I got to listen deeper and closer to Reese, because he won't hit you hard with it. But if he mentions a player a couple times, you ought to pay attention, because he did that with all those guys. And Brett was on that list. So I'll never forget the first time I saw Brett. They were actually, he was out playing soccer. I don't know if it was a soccer team or just, gym class, but he was out there fooling around on the field, and met him that day at school there. And then obviously he came, and from day one, just, serious, focused. It had all the attributes that you're looking for. And then the question is, can he develop into a Division I athlete? And certainly he did that. The commonality there, typically, we've had one or two guys who are just so gifted, but typically it's the hard work the athlete puts in mentally and physically. And Brett, checks every box multiple times in those regards. So basically, ends up going in the game. I think his first game was 2007 against Illinois, if I remember correctly. And we upset them out there. We didn't have a great season that year, a great team, but we upset them. They went to the Rose Bowl. And then, never looked back. He just had an outstanding career for us. And what he went through is just so tragic, and just so, there's no way anybody could have predicted that or seen that coming. But what he's done since is just, nothing short of remarkable. And it's a testament to his strong will, the competitive spirit that he has. And I think, again, that the attributes that made him a great athlete, that's what's pushing him forward right now. And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Pat Anger's name in that case too, because you talk about being a good teammate, and that extends past the football field. It goes way beyond. Pat's a living example of that. And he's been a good friend to Brett for a long, long time. And that friendship has only grown deeper and continues to be strong. So, great admiration. But I think that's one of the byproducts about playing a team sport like this that, makes it so beneficial. And the games are important. Don't get me wrong. The scores are important, statistics, all those things. But 10 years down the road, none of that stuff. Those are all memories. And, you got rings, you got watches, all that stuff. But it's more about the relationships that get developed and get bonded, and those things last for life. And so when those guys come back to campus, 10 years later, 20 years later, it's like they never left. It's one of those deals. They'll look a little different, but they're still really close and have that mutual respect. I think that's the coolest thing about it. And, Brett's, just emblematic of that whole thing.
A lot different. Pat's let himself go. He looks awful. Have you seen him? Like, I'm worried about him.
I have. I saw him last week, actually.
He's tipping like $3 bills, like $3.50. I'm worried. He looks like a defensive tackle instead of a lineman, or instead of a linebacker.
The skilled guys, and I'm going to include linebackers. They get bigger, and the bigger guys get smaller.
There you go.
As a rule.
If I told you in 2009, last question, I promise. If I told you in 2009 that Pat Angerer would have a live microphone for 4 hours every Saturday in football season, what would you have told me?
Well, that would have been a little risky in '09. That's for sure. No question about that. Fortunately, it's well hidden, but he has matured. And I always, when I think of Pat, I think of Tom Brands. They're very spontaneous. There's a lot of good stuff coming out, but I think it's all very, Tom has always, I think, been very calculated. He knows fully knows what he's doing and what he's saying. And I think Pat's the same way. And I think you know that as well as I do. Pat's he's a very spontaneous guy. But I'll tell you, he's a great guy. He's been a great teammate, great supporter of the program. And I don't get to listen to the broadcast, but I'm sure it's outstanding. I think it's just great. It was tough losing Ed. Ed is first class in every regard. I think Ed's best attributes, Pat shares a lot of them. Ed really understood the game in all realms. And then more importantly, understood the people involved, the players, the coaches, and just, the highs and the lows. And I know Pat's got a great appreciation and understanding of all that stuff too. So I think that's a key component for a guy in that position. So I'm thrilled that Pat's doing it. And I'll tell you, Pat's one of the best leaders we've ever had.
He's good people. Coach, you are good people as well. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to chat with an unemployed guy who started a TV show up in his loft. It takes a good man to do something like that. So thank you so much. Enjoy a little rest and get back to work this fall.
Well, we're going to do that, Matt, and I congratulations on your venture. I know that took some guts to do it, and I'm glad it's going so well. Hope the ratings don't drop after this interview. But anyway, just really happy for you and happy you can enjoy your kids. There's nothing better. And I'll give you a flashback, whatever it would have been, 86, 7, 8. Our oldest boy, Brian, was up at practice on Thursdays, typically come up to practice. And never forget Bill Brazier in the locker room just telling me it goes fast. And so true. And Bill's one of the all-time great people, too. And so I think, I really applaud you for doing what you're doing and just enjoy every bit of it. It just keeps getting better, too. I can tell you that. I'm a little older than you are, so it keeps getting better.
Just a little bit. Coach, we appreciate you. Stay healthy, stay good. We'll talk to you real soon.
Will do. Thanks, Matt.
That is the one and only Kirk Ferentz talking to me on May 2nd about his program at the University of Iowa, getting ready to start year number 27 at the helm. Of course, all eyes will be on Iowa City coming up on August 30th when they welcome Albany to town to kick off the season, a 5 o'clock kick at Kinnick Stadium. We got more to get to on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Coming up next, we'll take a look back at our chat with Illinois head football coach Bret Bielema. That and more straight ahead on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak, with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo, now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Here, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high, each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfathers is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Are you looking to take your next party, tailgate, or golf outing to the next level? You need Mobile Party Experience. MPX features 3 top-of-the-line party trailers equipped with all the amenities you need to party like a rock star. Smart TVs, Yeti coolers, JBL sound systems, grills, bathrooms, and much more. Mobile Party Experience is an experience like no other. Check out my-mpx.com or call 563-514-1470 and book your Mobile Party Experience today. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday in the Quad Cities. Friday, July 11th. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Taking a look back today on the show. College football season 7 weeks away. 7 weeks from tomorrow, both Iowa and Illinois will kick off the season about 50 days from right now. So we figured it'd be a great time to take a look back at 2 really fun interviews we did during the month of May. In the first segment, we showed you our interview with Kirk Ferentz on May 16th. We were lucky enough to catch up with Prophetstown native and Illinois head football coach Bret Bielema. The Illini coming off a fantastic season last year, and they have high expectations once again here in 2025. Here's Bret Bielema from May 16th. We're joined now by the head football coach at the University of Illinois and Prophetstown native, Bret Bielema. I emphasize the Prophetstown native, Bret. It's great for you to come on and do this. I know the Quad Cities super important to you and your hometown in Prophetstown.
It is. I was actually, my mom and dad lived right off 23rd Avenue. I was born at Illini Hospital in Silvis. We were East Moliners for my early childhood. We moved away when I believe I was just about 5. Actually originated in the Quad Cities and never forget my roots.
I love it. I love it. I want to talk to you a lot about football, but a couple days ago, you were able to sign a contract extension with the University of Illinois. 4 successful seasons that I know you're proud of what you're building there. To know that you have a lot more seasons there and that this relationship and your program is getting the backing that they have from the administration and Josh Whitman. What did the news from a couple days ago mean to you?
Probably 2 biggest things is, it's one thing to win games, but to win at a high level and to go to a different place that Illinois has ever been, you need great support, right? Like as a coach, we're kind of in charge of game day, obviously, and all the things that happen around it, but there's so much that goes in to what we do before then. So to have the support of Josh Whitman, our athletic director, all of the administration on campus, really just everything from A to Z in our building here at the Smith Center, but it's just really awesome to be surrounded by such great people. And the second biggest part was just kind of going back to our previous conversation. I grew up as a kid in the Quad Cities, moved out to Prophetstown. I grew up in an area that I could call home, and to have a 2 set of daughters at home that are 7 and 6 years old. My 7-year-old, she's about to turn 8 on July 8th. She acts like she's 18, but she is only 8. To give them an environment that I hopefully can bring them up in and put them in an environment to be in school here, maybe even eventually go to the University of Illinois. It's just an awesome feeling.
Coach, I want to talk to you about expectations, but my question almost starts at the end of last year. You guys won 10 games, a bowl game. Excitement, fans are excited, and talking to some of your players, your local players, Matt Bailey, Cole Rusk, and even listening to you, you were happy but far from satisfied. There were no parades being thrown or anything like that. And now here comes bigger expectations this year. Is it safe to say you guys embrace expectations of what people think Illinois football can be this year?
Matt, I get the question, and I love the point. But what I have learned, going into my 17th year as a head coach, every year is independently different. I've always said that there's not one tackle, not one turnover, not one touchdown that happened last year that carries into this year, either for us or against us, right? Like every year is what it is. I think as you look back on last year, you realize that you're in a game that, on the 1 yard line at Penn State when they're ranked in the top 10, and where they finished after our game, and we know where we didn't get to. So you look at that game, you look at the Oregon game that was really the only game that got lopsided, really almost in my entire tenure here, but just one that got away from us. And then next week to lose a heartbreaker to Minnesota, which probably in reality took us out of the college football playoffs. And no disrespect or anything away from Minnesota. They earned that game and have done a lot of really good things themselves. So you just kind of always look back and think about what could have been done differently to get to where we want to go. So that's the things we're working on right now, right? Like, even though it's, the middle of May, we're doing things every day in our office to think about the games of the past, but also importantly about the games of the future. And that's what we're focusing on.
Coach, you bring back a lot of talent. It's led by that quarterback who has been a good quarterback, and now I think he's known as one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten and all of college football. What have you seen from him on the field and maybe off the field that has yourself and your staff confident in what he can do each and every Saturday?
Whether you're a player in my building or a coach or a support staff member, I always say the greatest thing you can bring to an organization is consistency. And Luke Altmaier is a walking definition of consistency. Who he is, what he represents, what he wakes up every day in his faith, what he wakes up every day as our starting quarterback, what he wakes up every day as a son to his mom and dad and as a friend and a teammate to the people in his building. He's so steady. And I think that's what I have witnessed from him. But also on the flip side of that, he's a guy that's intrinsically motivated and unlike anything I've ever seen. He has such a desire to be successful and a desire to be better than he was the day before. Not just, last season to this year. All right. He's talking about how much better I can be today than I was yesterday. He's a guy that's always motivated to be better, has a really intentional way of doing his business, right? Like he's not a guy that's going to come in and take over a room and he can do that. He can definitely do that with his character and his demeanor, but he's very intentional. A lot of one-off relationships, a lot of intentional time with someone specifically to get a desired action. So really excited about what Luke has been, but really excited about where he's going.
Coach was lucky enough to have Kirk Ferentz on the show a couple weeks ago. We talked about college football and where it's going. And obviously you've had players go to the portal. You've probably had players tampered with while at the University of Illinois. It's a crazy world of college football. It's a loaded question, so it's a tough question to ask. But what are some of your thoughts on where we are with college football? I probably could talk for 20 minutes about it, but where do you feel things are at and where do they need to get to big picture-wise in college football?
Big picture, I'll start there, Matt. First, I think we're in the greatest profession there is in this world. I love coaching. Obviously, I've been able to do it at a variety of different places, both in college and the NFL. I always go back to a quote I always go to. Confucius says, choose a job you love and never work a day in your life. I'm 55 years old. I don't know if I worked a day yet, right? Like even the best of the days, the worst of the days, I just love what I do. And then in college football right now, we're at an unprecedented level that I think creates a playing field that is open to everybody. You mentioned Kirk. I was able to be under him for, 3 years and just really have him pour into me as an assistant coach, the things that he brought from his experiences. And a lot of the things I do today are a direct reflection on Kirk, who's an incredible coach. He's an incredible man, a great husband, great father, a great mentor for me. We do compete against each other quite a bit, but it's just this profession has brought us together in a way that I think is pretty awesome. College football is really pretty unique in the fact that now, guys are being compensated. They have the ability to travel and, go to new opportunities when they aren't happy with the one that they're at. And even though that can get frustrating, and I always think that we have a room to improve on a daily basis in our world, no matter where you're at, what you're doing, you always have the chance to get better. But where we're at right now is pretty awesome. We can be a part of a change in college athletics that is unprecedented. There's some things we got to get better at. I'll be the first to tell you, but there's definitely a lot of really positives that have never been experienced before. When we have a young man that comes to us and, has limited opportunities and he can come here, get a degree, he can maybe provide some opportunity that allows his family to come watch him that would never have been able to be done before, where he can help his mom with a rent check. Maybe he can help a brother that needs to go to college, right? Maybe he can help a loved one that needs assistance, right? That's a time in college football that is unprecedented, and that's probably what makes this game so special right now.
Coach, when you got to the University of Illinois, I know your focus is on football, but the environment and the fan base and connecting and all of those kind of things. Just talking with Bret before you started, season tickets are going to get sold out. I mean, it's just a thing. How excited are you about the energy in Champaign right now? Because you in your way have kind of reminded fans to come on out, that it helps, those kind of things. You got to be excited about what this fall will look like in the stands as well, aren't you?
We definitely are, Matt. I have no doubt in my mind that we've tried to create a home field advantage here at the University of Illinois. It's something they haven't had in a while, but I do remember coming into this stadium as an opponent in the late 80s, early 90s and being like, wow, this is a tough place to play. And, the first time I really felt it was this year post-game against Kansas. You felt it during the game, but we kind of won a walk-off a victory against a ranked opponent. A number of weeks later, we were able to beat a 100-year anniversary game against a ranked opponent at Michigan. Michigan was the defending national champ, and to have a two-score game victory over the defending national champ on your home turf on a 100-year anniversary game and some retro uniforms, that was pretty awesome. But to be on the field afterwards, to have the fans swarm our team, our family, my two baby girls were in my arms and had people going nuts. It was just an awesome environment, and we won 6 of our 7 home games last year. We got 7 again this year that we're hoping to have similar success, but we got to take it one game at a time. And I think that's the fun part of college athletics and in particular college football.
Coach, I have to talk to you about the Quad Cities before I let you go, because you got some of our guys down there, some really good people. Yeah. Matthew Bailey and Cole Rusk, just to name a couple, that are there on each side of the football expecting big things. What do you see, not just from them, but also this area in general? Because there's a ton of great football players that come from this area, and you've done a good job of late of getting those guys to realize that there's a home state school that has a lot to provide them.
Yeah, it goes back a little different recruiting story, but Brad Hopkins was a kid from the Quad City area that was a really good player at Illinois. I was at Iowa. I got under-recruited, I hope. I was a walk-on at the University of Iowa, but I remember squaring up against him and realizing, here's a former Quad City player, right? And then also just to come full circle now, I would tell you, Matt Bailey is a guy that represents and epitomizes everything I had hoped for in this program. Just happens to be from the Moline area, right? And but who he is, who he represents, the family he's been brought up by and raised by, the demeanor, the character, the ability that he has brought has been absolutely awesome to turn himself into now a future NFL player. We're going to hopefully get a couple more great years out of him here. But you mentioned Cole Russ, kind of in an indirect way, another Rock Island guy, right? That actually came through the transfer portal and see where he's at. Mac Rossetti's just down the road as well as beside a great hairdo and a great personality. He's a really good player that comes from that northwest area of Illinois, and I hope to just continue to go back to that area and continue to pull the best players out of there to have them come and play for us. So. Yeah, anything to represent the QCA is absolutely awesome. It was a big deal when I was growing up from Provincetown, Illinois, to drive to the Quad Cities. Our dentist, our orthodontist, was in the Quad Cities, and when we went there, we went as a family, and we got to go to Hardee's or McDonald's or Long John Silver's. It was a really big deal back then. And going to the big city, times have kind of changed in that regard. But very proud. I always say to our players, right, I've never met a successful man who isn't proud of where he came from, and I'm very excited to be from the QCA.
Coach, I know I got to let you go. Last one. Do you do anything for fun right now? I know football is fun. I'm not saying football is not fun, but spring ball's done. I know you're on boards. You got a lot of stuff going on. If Bret Bielema is going to go have fun for a day, what's it entail? You fishing? You golfing? You doing family? Take me through a day of fun for you.
Yeah, I would tell you the probably one of the greatest things to this week that we're in right now. I've been able to take my girls to school 3 days this week, and on the 4th day, I was able to go to a book report at 9 a.m. and hear my second grader give a book report that just warmed my heart to the fullest. One of the things I'll do a lot of times, I'll come into work really early, and then on the way home, I'm going to swing by 7 Brew and grab my wife a oatmeal latte coffee that makes her smile when I walk in the door, and then I take my girls to school. And if I can pick them up on the back end of the day and get them, watch them in dance class, I think as you guys know, as parents, you mentioned, Matt, you have 4 boys. I got 2 girls, and what they bring to your heart is something I've never been able to have until now. And obviously, my wife and I share a lot of great things. We're actually going to sneak away to Cali this week for Big Ten meetings. We're going to go out a day early just her and I to maybe grab a little sushi dinner to celebrate our new contract on Saturday night in a hotel. Like, we don't get a lot of chances to do those things. So that would probably be an ideal Saturday night for me with her. But you find these little moments in your life right now that just bring a lot of pleasure that, I think back in the day, you didn't ever think of it that way. But now those little cherished moments mean everything. So that's probably what my biggest joys are right now.
Behind every great man is a greater woman. I know I echo that from my end, and I'm pretty sure you echo the same thing with you when it comes to your wife as well. Coach, I appreciate your time to take some time to talk to some unemployed guy doing a podcast in his loft. It is very nice of you. It's probably one of the stranger requests you've ever gotten, but the Quad Cities is extremely proud. Do our boys well down there. Keep good tabs of Matthew and Cole and Mac, and we'll see you. Well, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you guys again real soon.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. ILL.
A huge thank you to Bret Bielema for taking the time to join me on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Of course, the Illini open up their season on August 30th as well. We got more to get to. We'll wrap up today's show right after this.
Quad Cities, let me tell you, if you're looking for something fun to do, I've got it. Saturday night, July 12th, the Steamwheelers are throwing down against Green Bay for John Deere night. And it's about to be straight up legendary. The team's rocking custom John Deere jerseys. John Deere employees get in free, and there's even a free halftime concert by Lois Hills.
Let's get away, change your names, go state.
Grab your tickets now at steamwheelersfootball.com/tickets before they're gone.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday in the Quad Cities, TGIF. The weekend is officially here. Thank you guys so much for joining us on today's show. A little bit of a look back show, a little best of show as we get ready for the college football season. Kirk Ferentz and Bret Bielema both nice enough to join me in the month of May. So we replayed you those interviews as college football season is right around the corner. Once again, we're really grateful and thankful that everyone supported the show the way they have. Over 6 months and running here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. It has been a ton of fun, and we're super excited about what's coming up this fall with football season, high school football, college football, all of that fun stuff, and much, much more. So we thank you. If you have not subscribed on the YouTube channel, do so ASAP. Also, if you want to check out some of the shows from the past couple weeks or any of the shows that we've done here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo, go ahead ahead and check out the YouTube channel. You can see all of those there. Also, if you go to any podcasting platform, all of the shows are up on podcasting platforms as well. It was a really fun week here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. On Monday, we had Andrew Lehman coming off a very successful John Deere Classic. Pat Anger joined us, Craig DeVries. Monday was a ton of fun. Tuesday, Tom Kakert, Pleasant Valley's Amanda Hughes, and Bobby Metcalf all joined me on Tuesday. Wednesday, we had Scott Docterman, a fantastic conversation with him as he ranked out the top 100 college football rivalries. That was a lot of fun. Also, Wheeler's defensive lineman Chima Dunga joined us as well. Get down to the Vibrant Arena this weekend. Wheeler's hosting Green Bay with a chance to clinch a home playoff spot. It's John Deere night. There's a halftime concerts. You can get in for free if you're a John Deere employee. An auction after the game. So much going on down at Vibrant Arena this weekend. So head down there, support the Wheelers. Greg Armstrong also joining us on that show on Wednesday as well. And on Thursday, we had a ton of fun. Kyle Huseman joined me along with Bam Pastelnik. Bam talking about the Quad Cities Ride for Our Troops coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend. Check that interview out as well. And also Alex Tanny back in Monmouth coming up on Saturday for his 7th annual Tackle MS with Alex Tanny. So we covered a ton this week. If you missed any of it, please go check it out. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll be back with a brand new week of shows right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo coming up on Monday. And before we leave you, we want to thank our amazing sponsors for allowing us to do this each and every day right here in the Quad Cities. Have a great weekend, Quad Cities. We'll see you back here on Monday.